This episode contains topics that may be sensitive to some listeners. Check out the show notes for more information. Thank you for tuning in.
There's a rot in the heart of this city.
The New Viliath Metropolitan warns about the dangers of a new drug overtaking the streets.
The government launched a campaign against the use of neuromorphic memories.
This city's nothing but copper and the visions of the past.
It's a black day. For all of us.
Who doesn't dream of the times gone by?
Unsavory figures can no longer hide in the shadows.
Such is my promise.
Wake up, New Valiers. Chapter 10. Let the daylight in. The beast turned its attention away from me, and for a moment, the fear that had that iron grip on me subsided, until the beast barreled towards Sasha. It slammed into the wall. For a moment, dust obstructed my vision, but then I spotted Sasha and Tula hurtling into the mineshaft behind them. Relief washed over me, but not for long. The Cranier's attention was still on Sasha.
Willow, shoot it! I'll get the Cranier in position.
Willow nodded, but I noticed something about her I hadn't before. She was pale and sweating. Her fingers were clamped around her sniper rifle, turning white.
Something's wrong!
My words disappeared beneath the roaring of the Cranier and Rassinen's shouts.
This way!
She released a round of bullets. The Cranier turned towards us, and Willow raised her rifle, pointing it towards Tula's device on the ground. But her hand shook.
Rassinen!
She didn't respond. She was too busy getting the Cranier to run towards us.
Get ready, Willow!
Rassinen shouted as the beast was above the device. The shot didn't come. Willow's eyes were fixed on the Cranier, and it came towards us. Her fingers slacked, and the gun clattered from her hands.
What are you doing? Willow, shoot it!
With trembling hands, I loaded my own gun. Rassinen nodded at me and ran around the Cranier. She shot at it.
This way, you stupid beast!
Willow still stood there, shaking and unmoving. But the Cranier was where it needed to be.
Do it!
I heard Sasha, half hidden in the cavern. I shot, missed. I stumbled to load another shot. This time I hit the device. It blasted apart underneath the Cranier. The beast writhed intensely from the impact. My body trembled as violent as the cavern around us.
Did it work?
The Cranier got up and shook off the dust. Turned towards us where we stood.
Do you have any idea what you're doing? It's not dying!
That was supposed to do it!
Now what?
I didn't pretend to have things under control anymore. This was it. We were going to die. I locked eyes with Sasha, who peeked out of the tunnel, huddled together with Tula.
You have to go, Sasha!
She shook her head.
Rhea, the bullets!
Rassinen glanced up at the eggs and then at Willow.
Come on! Die!
I screamed at the Cranier and shot again, but the beast barely reacted. Rassinen grabbed my arm.
Get them out.
What?
Now! Get them out! I'll finish this.
The Cranier prepared itself to leap at us now, like a bull that had spotted red. I hesitated for a moment. I wasn't sure why. Rassinen's actions in calling the Cranier before Sasha and I could get out seemed like a ploy to get me killed, or at the very least teach me a lesson. But Rassinen's eyes were on the Cranier, who wasn't going to stop and had its beady eyes fixed on us.
Now, Von Lierkopf!
I started moving.
Go around the left side. I'll distract it.
I nodded and ran off. But as I started to run, I heard it. The crack began where the beast had smashed against the wall, right above where Sasha and Tula were hiding. I watched Rassinen reload her gun, eyes fixed on nothing but the Cranier. She shot one of the eggs. The beast roared again, but it sounded different, almost anguished. While it was distracted, Rasanen slid under the beast and shot at its belly. It thrashed, and as it did, its tail smashed against the wall. The crack snaked upwards. Too late. The impact rumbled through the cavern, and then the walls broke. But the cave was already crumbling.
Get away, Constantine! Get back!
Through the falling rubble, I watched Tula pulling her further into the tunnel. Before I could get to them, Rasanen slammed me against the ground. I covered my head with my arm. The cave roared, or maybe it was the cranium. Any second now, a rock or the beast would finish me, crush me to pieces. I was protecting myself, but I should have been the one to push Sasha out of harm's way. Had she been crushed like the miners had? Was that the irony I deserved? A part of me hoped the rocks would come and end him. Minutes passed, and nothing happened. The cave echoed on for a long time, and then the sound faded out, retreating into the dark halls. Only once it was silent, and remained silent, I dared to unfold. I heard Rasanen get up, but I didn't see anything. The flashlight had gone out. Most likely it had been smashed or knocked over. I fumbled for my own flashlight and shone it around the cave, or what was left of it. The eggs, too, were nowhere to be seen, and there was no longer a hole that led into the tunnel. Sasha! I pushed myself to my feet and tried to rush forward, but Rasanen grabbed my arm and pulled me back. I noticed the pile of rocks I had been about to step on. Obsidian. A claw stuck out from under the rocks. I tumbled back. Is it?
I doubt it.
I noticed she was trembling.
Willow. Lou.
No response came. I noticed Rasanen was bleeding. Blood dripped over her nose and down her chin. She hurried off in the direction where Willow had stood.
Von Lierkopf!
It was the first time I heard genuine fear in her voice. I followed her on autopilot, avoiding the Cranir with a large arc. In my shock, I couldn't think, couldn't make decisions, so I moved on Rasanen's orders. Rasanen knelt next to Willow, who lay under a pile of rocks. Bile rose in my throat. A piece of stone had smashed Willow's shoulder to bits. Rasanen pushed the stone away to free her.
Help me get her away from here.
For a moment I could only stare.
Constantine! Now!
I jumped into action and helped her move Willow further into the opposite hallway, away from the cave.
Stay here.
She ran back to where they had found Willow. She knelt and started digging through the rocks. In the middle of the cave, the Cranir stirred slightly.
What are you doing? We have to get out of here!
The rifle, I need it. It has more bullets.
I have bullets!
These are different. They have neek poison.
She continued digging. I didn't dare look down at Willow. I felt light in my head. Instead, I stared at the place where I had last seen my cousin. The beast's roar snapped the last of my restraint. Run. I had to run. I glanced at the tunnel we had come through. Would it go after Rasanen, or would it follow me? The Cranir rose from the stack of stones. It shook itself off as if the rocks were nothing more than a pile of leaves. But no, it was slower. It almost seemed confused, disorientated. The Cranir followed the line of light coming from my flashlight and roared. I stumbled back and fell over Willow's body. The beast roared again. It was crawling towards me, a limp in its step. Please, don't kill me! I scrambled up, cutting my hands open on the stone in my frenzy. My legs were like jelly, but I was running. Rasanen lay on the ground and had hit the beast directly in its belly. The beast stumbled, but still it headed for her. Shot after shot came from Rasenen's barrel, nestling into the beast's open wound. She pulled the trigger again, but no bullet came out. I expected her to run, but instead she threw the sniper aside and took out 2 large knives. She ran directly at the beast, and the beast wasn't running anymore. It was writhing, but it still had its teeth and its claws, and it was going to rip her apart. Rasenen stabbed both her knives upwards into the beast's belly, and gore splattered onto her. I could only stare as it crumpled to the floor, nearly missing Rasenen. Instead of stepping back, Rasenen plunged her knife into its belly again. It disappeared to the hilt. She had to avoid the thrashing legs of the animal as she continued stabbing it again and again until she was covered in black blood from head to toe. I childishly expected something to happen once the cranier was dead. Perhaps the cranier would dissolve into dust particles, a beam of light. Nothing of the sort happened. The thing just stopped moving.
Now it's dead.
She was dripping with blood and gore. Bile rose up in my throat and I turned to the side to throw up. She turned to where I stood.
Coward.
I heaved again. My legs shook under me. In a valiant effort, I brushed the dust from my suit pants. My eyes wandered to where Sasha had been standing.
We have to call a rescue team.
I thought this was a secret operation.
She knelt next to Willow and set her flashlight on the floor. It bounced off the shimmering walls above them.
I can't leave her under there. She'll die.
She's dead, von Leerkopf.
I wasn't sure who she was trying to convince.
We need to get Willow help.
I pushed past Rasenen and walked towards where Sasha had been. My determination ebbed as soon as it came. A slope of rocks had formed against the wall, cutting the chamber in half. As I looked up at the pile of rocks, any hope I had began to wane. Could they have run fast enough to get out? I whirled towards Rasenen.
What were you thinking? We were supposed to get out first!
Rasenen lunged forward. Her knife stopped just short of piercing my chest.
What was I thinking? You led us here with half the information, putting my whole team at risk.
You never told us your plans either!
Rasenen leaned closer. The tip of her knife slid through my shirt. Blood welled up through the white fabric.
What did you expect, von Leerkopf? We were going to breeze in here? You should have trusted us with the map of the mines. You chose to join us. You brought your cousin.
I should have trusted you? What about you? You kept me in the dark about everything!
I wanted to rip something apart, throw something, scream.
You paid us to solve your problem, not to indulge your insecurities about worthiness.
You have no right. Sasha, had no idea what she was getting into.
If you think she didn't know, you are doing your cousin a disservice.
She managed to keep her voice a lot calmer than I did. I was breathing raggedly. Panic coursed through me. But I had nothing left to say. We fell silent. Rasenen stepped back and sheathed her knife.
I should kill you for what you did.
Well, why don't you?
You still need to pay us.
She spat on the floor in front of me before turning back towards Willow. I wanted to crumble apart, but I couldn't. Sasha was still underneath there, likely in pain. I turned to the mountain of rocks. I started to climb. Rasenen had no right. She was wrong. She had put all of us at risk. She had done this to Sasha. I kept climbing. The motion soothed me. I had to carefully think about every step, taking my mind of what might be underneath the rocks.
Sasha! Sasha!
My voice multiplied in the cavern. A chorus of desperate Constantins echoed back at me. I heard something. Was it my own voice, distorted? No. No, that wasn't it. Something, or someone, was definitely making noise. I lifted a rock and threw it away. It wasn't big, but I was already out of breath.
Sasha!
I was definitely a voice on the other side. I selfishly hoped it was Sasha instead of Tula. We need to start digging. I can call a team to come help. Räsänen didn't reply.
Come on, we need to be quick. What if she has no oxygen?
I looked over my shoulder and froze. Someone stood behind Räsänen, a gun pressed against her temple. I didn't recognize the Dokkulfar, but I did recognize the New Valirth Police Department badge shimmering on his chest. And I also recognized the man who stepped into the flashlight.
Well done, Constantine.
The voice of my father echoed through the cave. He looked at the Cranir and seemed genuinely impressed. Casimir walked forward.
It could still be alive.
It's there, all right. How'd you kill it?
It was damaged in the explosions. We used Neek poison-infused bullets.
Clever. I admit I never thought of that.
I too had to admit that it was clever. And absolutely insane. Neek poison was not easy to come by. There was probably a way to get it at a high cost. And it clicked. A high cost of, say, 5 million shards. I glanced at Räsänen. She bared her teeth at me. I squared my shoulders. It wasn't easy, but I thought it was worth a try. That's why I didn't want to tell you yet. In case it failed, it wouldn't have been worth bothering you with.
Of course.
Casimir nodded. I had no idea if he believed anything I said. I got them involved to get the toxin and kill the beast. I didn't want to risk our troops. I didn't dare look at Räsänen as I said it. Casimir nodded again.
Of course. And afterwards you could deliver me a dead Cranir and a key member of the Oneiroi Vanguard.
I hesitated. Right. Of course. I parroted my father. Now you have grounds to arrest her. Casimir turned towards the police officer.
What can we make of it?
Breaking and entering into private property, buying illegal weaponry, damaging property, to name a few.
The officer grinned. His sharp canine shone bright. I shivered. The police force behind my father and the officer moved forward. Räsänen's yellow eyes remained fixed on me as she was cuffed and taken into the darkness of the cave. One of the officers knelt next to Willow and did a quick medical check before carrying her away in handcuffs as well. Casimir squeezed my shoulder, nails digging into my skin. How did you know where to find me?
Miss Minayeva was worried. You hadn't come back home when she expected you to. You're lucky to find a fine wife like that. She's smart. They rarely are.
Yes. Lucky. The words left my mouth as if it was a robot saying them.
My men will get your cousin out of the rubble. Get yourself cleaned. You have an event to attend.
I stood in a sea of luxurious fabrics. Sasha and Nadia stood on either side of me. Sasha's face was pale enough to mistake it for still being covered in dust. Her eyes drooped. She hadn't said a word to me since they had gotten her and Tula out of the rubble. Tula had been promptly arrested as well. The night had dragged on into the morning and into the midday until evening had come again. Oh, I had wanted to sleep, had needed to sleep, but I hadn't been able to. My body faltered, but my mind was racing. I doubted I looked any better than Sasha. I spent the 2 bells before the event drinking several coffees. A waste of resources, but a necessity. It only slightly helped my physical state. The intensity of my anxiety had only worsened. My father stepped onto the stage.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you all for coming here. Donations are flowing tonight, and I encourage you to keep it going. I assure you, every shard raised will help the families that were hurt during the mine collapses. Yesterday, we were able to get most of our valued workers out. Of course, the families unfortunate enough to have lost someone will receive compensation. If you want to speak to the initiator of this special night, I direct you to Erasmus van Vught, leader of the New Democratic People's Party. Please, he deserves an applause.
Erasmus stood in front of the stage. He took the smattering applause with a small bow. I flinched at the loud noises. Could I sneak off? I had shown my face.
Now, even though this night is about charity, I want to shift the focus a little. As you have heard, today the monster that has been terrorizing our minds has been caught.
Another round of applause, but my arms remained slack beside me.
And I have someone in particular to thank for that.
Too late. I should have ran when I could. I stepped back, but Nadja grabbed my arm and pulled me forward.
Don't you dare.
Her nails dug into my skin.
Without him, he wouldn't have been able to perform the rescue. So give him an applause. My son, Konstantin Vollerkov. Come on up here, son.
I glanced at Sasha, but Sasha was staring straight ahead.
Go.
She gave me a push against my back. I walked forward, almost mechanically, and stepped onto the small stage, then took my place next to my father. After a second, I remembered to smile.
I want to take this moment to not only thank him.
He placed his hand on my shoulder. The weight of it almost pushed me through the stage.
I have been readying him for this moment for years, and I think tonight he has proven he has earned it.
My head whipped around towards my father. My father's eyes narrowed slightly. I resettled myself and wiped the shock from my face.
From this day on, I want my son to take over as Chief Operating Officer. Together, we will manage Von Leerkov Mining Corporation, and if he doesn't screw up, he will take over as CEO within the next 5 years.
I fabricated a smile, not too broad, but polite, and ever so slightly conceited. Lights flashed, illuminating the face I had so carefully constructed. I was positive everyone in the audience could see the cracks.
Mr. Von Leerkov is covered in bruises. He looks tired but relieved. Mr. Von Leerkov, how are you doing?
This is not about me. This is about the miners and their families who will no longer have to fear for their lives when they go to work. I'm glad we are able to assure that safety again.
There's been a lot of criticism on the response of the Von Leerkov Mining Corporation. How do you respond to that?
We understand people are afraid, but please know that we will always put your safety first. As you now know, we have been working to solve the problem behind the scenes for the past weeks. Unfortunately, as it was an ongoing investigation, we were unable to share anything with the public.
Is it true that the Von Leerkov Mining Corporation hired the Oneiroi Vanguard to kill the Cranier?
I understand the confusion, but we would never work together with a criminal organization such as the Vanguard. We found out it was the Cranier causing the disruptions at the same time they did, and instead of helping the people, they decided to use the situation for their gain. While we are relieved the problem has been taken care of, we in no way approve of their actions and are glad to see them brought to justice.
How did the Vanguard find out about the Cranier?
That was the interview. Mr. Von Leerkov has answered everything he needs to answer.
Does the Von Leerkov Mining Corporation have ties with the Vanguard?
This interview is done.
Thank you, Mr. Von Leerkov, for the interview. We wish you a speedy recovery. Back to the studio with Heinrich Mittal.
My body was stiff from sitting on the floor. Faint light came through the window of my cell, accompanied by the sound and smell of waves. It must be morning again, but I stopped counting which morning it was. A hatch in the door opened and a hand shoved a plate of stew inside. Wait! The hatch already slammed shut. Get me one of the officers, I need to talk to them. No one responded. I pulled the food towards me and began to eat. The stew didn't taste like anything. I drifted through the rest of the day. The books they had left were dull. There was only the sound of the waves to distract me. Likely I'd been isolated from other prisoners. Footsteps outside announced another meal. I stared at the latch, waiting for a hand to come in and attempting another call for an audience, but it wasn't the hatch that opened this time. The door unlocked and creaked open. I jumped up. The barrel of a gun appeared first. 2 guards stood in the doorway. One walked towards me to shackle my hands. He checked the shackles at my feet. I let him and waited.
What unfortunate circumstances we meet under, cousin.
Isno stepped inside. Are they alive? The words that had been at the front of my mind tumbled out. I didn't care how desperate they sounded.
They are fine. Well, fine enough. The mechanic had some respiratory problems for a few days, but she seemed to be recovering. Your other friend, the pretty one, well, her shoulder, it's a shame. It was smashed to bits. They're still trying to recover it, but she might have to borrow some of your mechanic's prosthetics.
They were alive. I almost slumped back in relief, but I had already given away too much. Isno knew it too. What are you doing here?
Am I not allowed to gloat?
Piss off.
Get out.
But sir...
Isno pulled the gun out of his hand.
Out.
They hurried out and closed the door behind them. Isno stepped forward, his fingers tapping on the gun. He stopped in front of me, close enough I could feel his breath.
Now that you're in here, it's time to finally make yourself useful, Rhea. You're going to help the Vanguard get what they want.
And why on earth would I help you? Isno grinned, showing off his perfectly sharp canines.
Because it'd be a shame if your friend succumbed to her injuries after all.
I could have strangled him. Fine. What do you want?
Wake up, New Valirth. It's a bright morning in our wonderful city. Forget your debt, your pain, and your guilt. It's time to wake up to a different world. Enjoy your stay.
Wake Up New Valirth is created, produced and written by Lisa van Hees. Directed and co-produced by Iris Sanne van der Aar. Our brilliant team of voices consists of Sigrid van Zetten as Rhea, Carré Albers as Willow, Zwaaske Doper de Vries as Tula, Liam van Poorten as Constantin, Samantha Bounofry as Sasha, Vee Legjen as Nadja, Jannik Staal as Casimir, Freya Terpstra as Ova, Klee van Peer as Isno, Vee Legjen, Lynn Schalken, Joris van de Waterbeent, Tom van 't Heul en Daan Helmendag as our radio hosts. And Reno van Oostrum, Ezra Menard and Isa Marley as our supporting voices. Sound recording by Lisa van Hees and Jonas van Impe. Sound design by Lode Woltersom. Music by Freya Terpstra en Teun Zeidner. Radio design by Joris van de Waterbeent. Directing assistance by Tom van 't Heul. Production assistance by Demi Oude-Elverink, Femke Bruil, Robert Kersies en Isa Marley. And cover art by Matt Roodhuizen. For a full list of our wonderful team, go to wakeupnewvalirth.com. Thank you for tuning in. We hope you've enjoyed your stay.
Hi, this is Iris Sanne, director of Wake Up New Valirth. On behalf of our entire team, thank you for coming along for the ride and listening to Season 1. It means a lot. If you would like to hear more from us, please rate and review our show on your preferred platform and share it with your friends and family. It really helps. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and join the conversation in our Discord server. Thank you for visiting the wonderful city of New Valirth, and we hope to see you back soon.